Hi there everybody, this is Heather from SisterWigs.com coming at you again. And you may see a cameo or two from my cats. That's Chubbs, or at least the butt of Chubbs. This particular video is going to be about something that's very personal, and I want to preface this video by simply stating that I am not a psychologist. My bachelor's degree is in social psychology, but I am not in fact a psychologist. So definitely do not substitute anything in this video for whatever a professional might have told you or anything of that nature. I figured that, you know, every little tool you can have in your toolkit against depression is helpful. So I just wanted to kind of offer up some of the things that I have come up with over the years. So I get asked a lot of questions on a regular basis. I get lots of emails, and many of them are extremely in-depth. People generally don't just send me wig questions, they'll actually send me like basically the Cliff Notes version of their entire life story. And I don't mind that. I actually think that it's very helpful to get to know people and see what their needs are. But I have noticed some common themes, and I think that the number one chief theme among them is that a lot of my clients are depressed. And boy, do I know about that one. You know, and you have every reason in the world to be depressed if you're suffering from a chronic illness, or if you're fighting for your life, or I mean, crying out loud, you know, I can't think of better reasons to be down. But whether or not it's justifiable, it's still a problem. It still impedes your quality of life. And that's something that I hear over and over and over again from a lot of my clients when they email me, is that, you know, they almost feel ashamed in telling me about it. And I don't want them to feel that way, you know? I honestly think, especially in light of what happened with Robin Williams, that it's really important to talk to somebody about it, whether it's a stranger on the interwebs or a trained professional or a family member or friend. You know, it's good to talk about these things, but talking about them is not enough. That's just the first step. And it could be a hard first step to take. And I often write emails to people telling them how I've dealt with my depression. So I'm just gonna get it out of the way and tell you about it. I have been dealing with depression since I was really young. Part of it has to do with the PCOS, obviously. I mean, like I said, chronic illnesses will do that to you. But I also had some fairly traumatic things happen to me when I was younger. And so, you know, I have issues with that occasionally. But I think that just goes to show that no matter how happy somebody appears on the outside, you never know what they're dealing with on the inside. So, I have found in my experience that pills didn't help me at all. They didn't do anything. I know they're helpful for some people, so I'm not trying to discount them entirely. But if you're in the same boat that I was in, where meds don't seem to do anything for you, then here is basically a philosophical paradigm that I've created that I think really helps me with these issues. And it's 3-tiered. It's basically self-awareness, self-agency, and self-advocacy. Again, that's self-awareness, self-agency, and self-advocacy. So let me get into that for you. First of all, I'd like to read for you a snippet of something that I wrote to one of my clients today, actually. I'm not going to divulge any information about this particular person. I just wanted to read to you what I wrote to this person because I think it might be helpful for a lot of people to hear something like this because, depressives, myself included, it can be very tempting to kind of seclude yourself because you don't want to be a burden on other people. Or you might not think that people will understand, or maybe you're trying to avoid stigma, but at any rate, it can be really, really tempting to kind of wall yourself off from other people and alienate yourself from other people. And I think that that is really bad because it basically traps you in the prison cell of your mind with the beast, And to be perfectly frank, that beast sometimes has some really terrific things that you can't escape from on your own. It's good to have other people in your corner. So, here we go. I said, "It must have taken quite a bit of courage to write me this email, considering it's so personal, and I'm just some chick on the web. I'm so glad you did, though. I'm actually in the middle of writing a blog post," this is that post, "about my own depression issues. I think that especially in the wake of what happened to Robin Williams, we shouldn't be forced to suffer in silence with our depression. You have every reason in the world to justifiably be depressed, but that doesn't mean you should do it alone, in bed, without the vital self-compassion and self-love needed to break the negative thoughts. It's really easy to hate your body when it's misbehaving and causing you pain. I am proud of you for taking the first step to start redefining your self-concept. By that, I am not cynically insinuating that buying a wig will do this. I actually mean that the simple act of working through it at your own pace and in your own way can do wonders. I implore you to be kind and patient with yourself, even though I'm sure it's really hard." And then I said, self-agency and self-advocacy are more than achieving things, because sometimes being a type A go-getter can actually distract you from your true self. It has more to do with finding the root causes of why you feel the way you do, and forgiving yourself for feeling that way. Then taking that compassion and extending it to every time you come up short and every time you fail. Yes, you have more to deal with than the average Joe Schmo. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to feel slighted, too. It's okay to feel as though you've been dealt a rotten hand of cards. What's not okay is punishing yourself for feeling that way. Saying goodbye to your old, healthy self is a very real grieving process, and everyone experiences it differently and at different speeds. Give yourself permission to grieve without judgment. And I want to explain that for a second. And I promise I'll get to my little paradigm towards the end of all of this gobbledygook. But I honestly think that self-compassion is learned. It's love your body and accept yourself even when things are horrible is a very fine skill to learn. It takes a long time to master. It's usually a work in progress. I'm still working on it. But the more you practice it, the easier it gets, honestly. And that is really the first step to finding happiness with yourself and with others and with your position in life. Okay, sorry. My computer locks up easy. Okay, so this person expressed that they had lost a lot of friends due to their depression and chronic illness. And I believe, honestly, that it doesn't matter if what you're experiencing is an emotional problem or if it's a physical problem, because physical problems can lead to emotional problems and emotional problems can lead to physical problems. I don't think that we should adopt that paradigm that there's a division between the brain and the body. The brain is part of the body. If your brain is unwell, chances are your body is unwell as well, you know? And vice versa. I said that losing friends and family is an unfortunate side effect of this process of rebuilding yourself. You are a different person than you were when they met you. It will be difficult to make new connections while you're still rebuilding your new self. This is where the self-agency and self-advocacy come into play. Live for you. Do what makes you happy to whatever extent you can. Find non-introverted interests. Maybe audit a class that only meets once a week, or make a promise to yourself to go to the park once a week and sit on a bench. Whatever works for you. Just start small. As you learn to adjust to the discomfort and the new you, you will start breaking the chains of fear that kept you bound to the house. It takes time though. Time and lots of planning. Just be patient with yourself and never give up. You're worth the headache. I honestly believe that we often do put other people before ourselves to our own detriment. And, you know, oftentimes people don't appreciate martyrs. In fact, oftentimes people will resent you if you try to bring up after the fact all the things you've sacrificed for them. Any mother can tell you that, I'm sure. So, you know, you have to make sure that you are also making yourself a priority. Don't be a martyr, especially if you already have depression issues. It will only make it worse. Make yourself a priority, honestly. And this isn't about buying wigs. This is about life, you know? I'm not saying that you should do hedonistic things at the expense of other people, but I'm also saying that if it requires you taking the time and penciling into your schedule book an hour of time alone in a park watching a waterfall or something, then by all means, please do so. But I do think that this time should not be spent in your home, should not be spent in your bed, should not be spent in front of a television or in front of the internet. Because if all the social interaction you get, either due to your illness or due to the fact that you're depressed, is watching other people passively on the television or on the internet, all you're going to see is the absolute worst of humanity over and over and over again in the most primal and distilled form. And that's not healthy. That only will feed into that depression. It will only feed into that fear of others. You actually have to kind of force yourself at first to go out and maybe not even integrate with other people, just be in a place where other people are, whether or not you interact with them. And over time, you might find that to be pretty helpful in getting to see that people can love and are nice and can be polite, you know? Whereas on the internet, you see over and over again how nasty people are. And on the news, you just see the worst of humanity over and over again. You know, I know quite a few depressives who spend all day watching nothing but the news, like CNN and Fox News. I'm like, no offense, but that's not helping at all. I mean, all you have to do is watch that for 20 minutes and it could be a real buzzkill. So I definitely think that by saying, you know, self-agency, that action, that doing stuff, it requires you to leave the house and not do things that revolve around chores or childcare or watching the television or, you know, playing around on Reddit. You have to actually go other places, see something green, eat something delicious, drink some hot tea, do something. You know, even if you're just reading a book in a park, it's better than being home alone with your depression. You know, and then the other thing is that with the self-agency, you know, agency action, you're doing stuff for yourself. That's the first step, I think, because it's easy to do. You don't have to overthink it. You don't have to, you know, come up with some masterful plan of all these times you're going to hang out with yourself. All it takes is just, you know, a car or, you know, a pair of walking shoes, and you just go. You just do. Don't overthink it. Just do. Get out of your house and do stuff. And then when you feel up to interacting with other people, do so, but at your own pace. You know, don't let other people dictate how you handle this. Because they don't know you. They don't know what you need. you deep down know what's best for you. And, as long as it's not the depression monster telling you to stay in bed with the covers pulled up over your face, I think we're in great shape. And that can actually grow. As you do more things, you can build into more complex planning. Eventually you could even get to a place where you're going to school for a certificate or a new degree, or perhaps you're trying your hand at dating again, if that's been a problem, or perhaps you go on a vacation, or you start a business or something. I mean, it can grow, but start small. Just get out of your house and then just kind of build from there as stuff gets more comfortable. Anything that breaks up your routine is gonna be helpful when you're a depressive. The other thing that I was saying was self-awareness. Self-awareness comes with experience. Now, with me, I know for a fact that a lot of my self-experience has been, historically fairly negative. And so because of that, it's really, really super easy to kind of lie to myself, because depression is a thief. It's a liar. It's, the robber of good times. It basically depletes you. It's a vampire. It's the worst, And it makes any problem that you're having exponentially more problematic and painful. You have to kind of step back and get to know yourself a little bit better than to just assume that because your body's malfunctioning somehow, that you're defective. You, my friend, are not defective. You are awesome, okay? And, I honestly believe that. I think that even if your body is fighting you at every step of the way, there is a way to make peace with it. There really is a way to feel good again. It just takes time and a little bit of an adjustment. So one thing that I think is really helpful, and I said so in this letter to my client, is another helpful tool is mindfulness meditation. I found during my own struggles, this is really hard. Depressives have a rough time meditating because it requires you to silence the negative and critical voices in your head long enough to just be. Be in the moment, not anticipating future events or ruminating over past ones. Be vitally present in the present. This is really hard. If nothing else, just trying it will serve as an exercise in just how strong those voices are for you, and knowing the depth of a problem is the first step in solving it. So this is what I mean by self-awareness, okay? Self-awareness is more than just being hypercritical of yourself. That is destructive. That is not really being self-aware, and it can feel like it's the same thing, but it's not. Trust me on that. That repetitive script that goes on in your head and tells you that, you're defective, that you're wrong, that, nobody loves you, whatever that script may be, it's a lie. It is a lie. It may feel real. It may feel really, really real, but it's a lie. And you don't know, just going throughout the course of your day, really how pervasive that lie is until you try to not think it. Just try. Try mindfulness meditation. Try to clear your mind of all thoughts. Stop the self-narrative for just a couple minutes. See if you can do it for a few seconds. I promise you that if you've never tried this before and you are a depressive person naturally, that you will find this virtually impossible to do. It's very, very, very hard to clear your mind of that negative self-talk long enough to just be. The hypercritical mind wants to criticize. That's what it's there for. It wants to criticize everything. It wants to criticize the fact that you can't meditate. It wants to criticize the fact that it's taking too long. It wants to criticize the fact that you shouldn't even be trying this. Why even bother? See what happens when you give it a shot. And, if you can manage to pull it off, then keep doing it because it's really, really good for you. Lots and lots of studies have shown that mindfulness meditation is extraordinarily helpful in combating a lot of mental illness. And I think a lot of the reason why people in modern societies have such high levels of depression and anxiety is because we can't do it. We can't just be present. We can't just live for the now. People might say hashtag YOLO, but they just use it as an excuse for hedonism. If you think about what that actually means, you only live once, then you should enjoy the now. You should internalize the now and love yourself in the now, because why not? Why not love yourself? You might think you don't deserve it. You might think that because other people have been cruel to you that you should be cruel to yourself. Don't listen to that BS. Love yourself. Because when, RuPaul even says, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else? It's true, you give the best of yourself to people when you love yourself. And I'm not talking narcissism, that's a completely different thing. I'm talking about compassion, self-compassion, compassion for your mistakes, like I said earlier, compassion for your grieving, compassion for feeling bad. Cut yourself a freaking break. So there we go. We've got the self-agency and we've got the self-awareness. Those are both really hard to do to a certain extent once you get more involved in what they are. And then the third one is self-advocacy. There is no getting over it. I mean, what the heck is that supposed to mean? I think getting over it is all about appearances, pretending to be okay so you won't be a burden on others. The unfortunate reality of the matter is people often don't have the skill set to cope with the complex emotions you or I might be going through. That isn't even necessarily their fault. Sometimes they're ignorant because they haven't been through it themselves. Sometimes they're too overwhelmed with their own secret struggles that they simply can't handle anymore. Whatever the reason, it is also important to try to forgive people for their blatant insensitivity. Also, how are you supposed to get over something like chronic pain or chronic sadness, which tend to muddle up even the best moments with discomfort, fatigue, and frustration? Forgiveness is for you. Holding a grudge doesn't punish that person. It only punishes you by reinforcing negative thoughts. I am not a particularly religious person. I just realized that the people who hurt me were moving on with their lives, but I wasn't moving on with mine. And forgiveness was the vehicle I used to propel myself out of that self-defeating mindset. It takes time. For me, it took about a decade, and I still struggle with depression occasionally. That is my reality, but I've accepted it. I think that I'm a work in progress. And I do what I can in the moment to get through the moment, one moment and then one day at a time. So again, be patient with yourself during this process. It's always easier to tear something down than to build it in the first place. As long as you keep going, you're already winning. Depression tells you to stop. Depression wants you to stop. It wants you to sit still and sit in a room with it and nothing else, and just dwell upon because after all, if multiple sources tell you horrible, horrible things about yourself, it's super easy to just kind of assume that they must be right somehow. You're lying to yourself, You're not a horrible person. You do not deserve to hurt like that. And I think that somebody needs to tell you that. You don't deserve to feel that way. Nobody deserves to feel that way except for maybe like Hitler, because he was a bad man. There there are some people, like supervillains that, you know, like Hitler, that deserve that, Pol Pot, you know, they should feel pretty crappy about themselves before they die, you know. I don't think you're on that level, you know, unless you're a secret serial killer. I don't think you've done anything to humanity that warrants thinking such horrible things about yourself. And so that's part of that self-advocacy. Fight for yourself. Fight for an intact self-concept. Fight for the right to be okay. Fight for it. Don't just assume that you deserve it and therefore you should live with it, because you don't deserve it and no one should have to live with it. You know, there is no such thing as thinking positive thoughts and thinking this away. Positive thoughts are not a panacea. I think that was pretty much disproven in the 90s because people thought it all the way throughout the 70s and still ended up depressed. You know, just speaking truth to power here, you know. So I honestly think that it's way beyond just thinking positive thoughts. You know, that's way too simplistic. If it were that simple, every freaking person would have The Secret by now. Because The Secret has been out for decades. But what I really think that this is you need to be hungry for it. Think of your depression, and again, I'm oversimplifying on purpose because I'm drawing an analogy, so please don't flame me for saying what I'm about to say. But consider your depression an addiction. Okay? Not because it is an addiction, but because a lot of the thought patterns are very similar. You know, with an addiction or, you know, with an eating disorder or anything that's really anxiety driven, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of anxiety going on when you have, you know, any kind of chemical dependency issue. So that's why the analogy works so well. You know, anything that's got that element to it is very compelling. It's very, very compelling, and it wants you to isolate yourself under the false assumption that people won't understand what you're going through, that they will be hyper judgmental of you if you tell them, and that you shouldn't be a burden on other people, that other people would be better off without you. That is all horseshit. Sorry, it is. You know, I think that it's so easy to think those things. It's so easy to look at the negative. We're biologically programmed to dwell on negative things. I mean, that's natural. It's part of natural selection. It's a biological process, you know, but we suffer for it. And that's why we have to advocate for ourselves. We have to fight for the right to be happy. We shouldn't assume that being happy is a natural right or that it is an easy thing to do. Other people might seem to have easier lives. They might seem to be happier just naturally. And that might be true. Who cares? This isn't a contest. You know, nobody wins when we play the who had the worst time as a child game, or, you know, who's got, you know, the most money game, or who can afford the better doctors game. Your reality is your reality regardless of what other people are experiencing. So just deal with you and don't think about what they're having to deal with, you know? Because like I said earlier, you never ever know what someone else is going through just by looking at them, just by listening to them. Because people, and Facebook should tell you this, people have a bad habit of just telling you the good things. They just want to present a good face. And so in the effort to present a good face, they make themselves miserable because they don't talk about the things that they really should be talking about. So if anything else, I'm hoping that with the self-advocacy that it opens up a dialogue, you know, that you start talking about your feelings with people, whether that's a psychologist or a psychiatrist or, you know, a family counselor or just a really trusted friend or family member. As long as that person is strong enough and open-minded enough to listen to you without judgment, take advantage of it. Listen, you know, to what they have to say, and don't be afraid to tell them whatever it is that you're going through. But don't be offended if you don't like the answers. Because oftentimes when you talk to people about this stuff, they're going to be able to point out some of the things that you're doing that is making your problem worse. Be open-minded to it, especially if you trust that person. Make sure that you don't just automatically dismiss it because it doesn't sound just like the narrative that you convince yourself is true every single day. Okay? So, again, self-awareness, it's very important. Hard to do though, really hard to do. It's easy to be self-critical, it's easy to diminish yourself, It's very difficult to see the good parts and build from there. And that's really what I'm getting at with that. Be self-aware enough to know the good parts about you in addition to the bad. And don't fool yourself into thinking you do, because if you're that depressed, you probably don't, okay? Self-agency. Do stuff for yourself and don't be ashamed about it, okay? And then self-advocacy. Fight for the right to be happy because you deserve it. You deserve to have your voice be heard, and you deserve compassion. And above all, you deserve to feel compassion for yourself, regardless of what you're going through. And be compassionate not just of your mind, but of your body and the struggle that it's going through. I know, especially in the case of chronic illness or with cancer, it can be very, very tempting to think of your body as the enemy, because parts of it probably are. That's a personal struggle. I can't even tell you how you should feel, because only you can define that. But I urge you to define it, to find a way to think of yourself as a whole, beautiful person, because you are. Okay? So, enough with the schmaltzy talk. I keep making myself want to cry. Ugh, I am such a baby. So, thank you for watching, and I hope this is helpful for some of you. And until next time, I hope you have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.